Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to get started in just a couple of minutes. Hello, and welcome. As you are joining us, please take a moment to share your name and where you're joining us from here in the chat box. Be sure to select all panelists and attendees so everyone knows who's in the room with us today. Again, welcome. Hello to everyone. We're going to get started in just a minute. We're going to be doing a hands-on demo activity today. So if you haven't grabbed your supplies yet, you'll need a plastic Ziploc bag, like a sandwich size or bigger, and a few sharpened pencils. So I'll give you a minute to grab those and also to say hello in the chat box. Right, looks like we have people joining us from Denver, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Massachusetts, California, the Philippines, Chicago, Texas. Hello, welcome everyone. If you missed it, I gave our little supply list that we're going to use for our experiment today. You need a plastic Ziploc bag, sandwich bag size or bigger, and a few sharpened pencils if you want to follow along with the demo. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Again, thank you for joining us today. Your phone line is muted. This webinar is being recorded, and a link to the recording and slides will be shared. Welcome to our webinar today, Leveraging STEM to Keep Students Connected to Learning All Summer Long. My name is Leslie Gabay-Swanston. I'm the Director of Program and Systems Quality at the National Summer Learning Association. Before we get started, here's an overview of our discussion today. First, I'll share a little bit about NSLA and Summer Learning Week for those who are unfamiliar, before we hear from our featured guests. After that, we'll wrap up with some announcements about upcoming events. As we're going along, if you have any questions that you would like asked and answered live, please put those into the Q&A box. I'll try to catch them if they're in the chat box, but they're a little bit easier for me to see. If you have a question that you want asked live, please put that into the Q&A box. So I'd like to say happy Summer Learning Week, and thank you for joining us for this virtual event and celebration. For more than 25 years, NSLA has advocated for summer learning as a solution for equity and excellence in education, and summer couldn't be more important than it is at this very moment. America's children and their families continue to face extraordinary challenges this summer amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. That's why NSLA is calling on all our partners and families during this Summer Learning Week to help us elevate why summer learning is essential to the nation's recovery and to each do our part to keep kids learning safe and healthy. Each day of NSLA's National Summer Learning Week focuses on a different summer issue, from literacy, STEM, and the arts to the importance of nutrition and wellness, to programs that introduce young people to career possibilities and civic engagement. Your participation sends a powerful message across the nation that summers matter, and there are more ways you can engage this week by visiting our website, summerlearning.org/Summer Learning Week. You can check out the theme days and resources for Summer Learning Week ideas and inspirations. Take action to protect funding for summer and after-school learning programs. Community members can contact their federal, state, and local representatives to communicate their support. You can share your favorite summer learning memories or planned activities with our hashtag Summer Matters social media challenge, or use our outreach toolkit to help amplify the message that summers matter. You can also text NSLA to 9199 to make a donation to NSLA. Links to all this and more can be found on the Summer Learning webpage of NSLA's website. So now, before we hear from our featured guests, I'd like to welcome NSLA CEO, Dworkin, to say a few words of hello. Aaron?
Yep, thank you, Leslie, and hello, everyone. Hello to all our partners, and thank you to Discovery Education for joining us today. It is really exciting to be with all of you, especially during National Summer Learning Week, which Leslie described, which has been going on with events around the country all week. And today's our STEM themed day, and we hope you'll join us for other events as well. But basically, we know that in all the inequities in education, summer is the time of the greatest inequity. It's the time when some students have the resources to keep learning and growing and thriving, and then when so many students don't have the same resources and they fall behind. So we have, for more than 25 years, been putting a spotlight on how to close those gaps, both achievement gaps and opportunity gaps, and we work with all of you and so many thousands of partners across the country to make sure that the summer doesn't just become a nice to have for some, but is understood to be a need to have for all. And that's something we're all doing together. I just also want to say that summer is a time, and we know when it's a time for all of us to improve, it's a time to innovate, it's a time to integrate and build partnerships, and it's a time to have lasting impact. And that's something we're going to hear about how to do today, especially around STEM and working with great partners like Discovery. And just so you know, we want to be working with you all year round, not just the summer, but during the year as you plan for the next summer. And with COVID, when everyone understands what it means to be out of school for 3 months and not have all the opportunities and resources that you would want for your young people in your life, I think people understand why our issue matters more than ever. So thank you again for being a part of our movement. Please stay connected to us, and I look forward to hearing from Lance and all the resources he has so we can help change students' lives. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, next we're going to hear from Lance, Vice President of Learning Communities and Educational Consultants at Discovery Education. Lance?
Perfect, thank you so much. Well, hello everybody, and I saw in the chat window, I have some fellow Pennsylvania peeps joining us. I'm connecting from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania today. I started my career as a middle school teacher in Philadelphia, but I've been in Mechanicsburg for quite a while now. My wife just retired. She was a middle school teacher in Philly and Harrisburg. So it's sunny here today. Hopefully it's the same for you, and happy National Summer Learning Week. In addition to working at Discovery Education, we run a small nonprofit, much smaller than some of the ones that I saw in the chat window, like Girl Scouts, but probably similar to what you guys are experiencing. Our living room is full of camp kits, because normally we run a summer program in person, and this year we are packaging up all the materials. So for all of you that are dealing with packaging up camp kits for summer learning, I commend you. Have a glass of wine late at night, because I know that is a stressful thing to put together. So thanks for letting me join you guys today. I'm going to share my screen, and we'll get started. If you have questions as you go through, put them in the Q&A. We'll try and get them in the chat as well. But like Leslie said, if you put them in that Q&A, we'll pause and answer your questions. This is about you, and I want to make sure that it is a meaningful experience for you. So Leslie, just quick confirmation. You can see my screen.
Yep, we're all good.
All right. So here's the kind of the agenda. We have a ton of resources at Discovery Education. Discovery Education is part of Discovery Communications, Discovery Channel, and Animal Planet, and pretty appropriately, our foundation has always been around inspiring curiosity. And for the STEM theme day, we have a ton of resources that I'm going to share with you today that have been provided, through a bunch of different partners. So kind of the high level agenda, I'm going to talk to you first about virtual field trips that we have to offer. So it's a great way to extend summer learning, focusing on careers and skills and just inspiring kids to think about what they might be in the future. And it's a great way to take to take a trip, particularly this summer, without having to leave your apartment. I'll focus then on the daily DE, which is something we put together that I think will be particularly useful to you guys as you're thinking about just additional summer programming. We'll talk about some additional partnerships programs that I know Leslie has sent out, and we'll resend out to make sure you guys have all the links and all the resources. And then we'll close on kind of Discovery Education Summer of Learning, and we'll take some questions. So why don't we just dive in? I'm going to jump back and forth and just go live and show you some resources and talk about how they might fit in. And the first one, when I think of summer learning, and particularly this summer, are virtual field trips. We've been doing virtual field trips for about a decade at Discovery Education. And like I said, it's a great way to expose kids to just a variety of different places that many of us will never get to visit in person, but also it's a great way to expose our students, our children to careers that they might not have even known existed. One of my favorite, and I'll just start with a quick little story and a backdrop, and then I'll show you some of the resources specific to virtual field trips. Every fall, we take a trip to Churchill, Manitoba. And I saw, and I wrote it down, Mark, I think Mark is on with us from Winnipeg. So hi, Mark. This is probably something that you're familiar with. We take a trip to the western shores of the Hudson Bay in Churchill, Manitoba, and we do a live broadcast. Here's the beautiful little downtown of Churchill. We do a live broadcast, virtual field trips, every fall from one of these machines, the Tundra buggy. And at this time of the year, we're up there because we have climate scientists and researchers and our partners at Polar Bears International. And we go out and we broadcast live because the polar bears are waiting and congregating on the shores of the Hudson Bay, waiting for the sea ice to come. So the Tundra buggy is kind of a special place, and just to give you a sense of scale, we never leave the buggy because there are literally polar bears roaming around that the scientists are observing, and that we're broadcasting to students and talking about their needs and the importance and our impact on what we can do to help protect these amazing animals. So you can get a little bit of a view here. If you look really closely out the left, the driver's side window, you can see polar bears off in the distance there. And there's a couple different buggies congregated. So that's a picture from my cell phone. I've had the opportunity to go up there 3 or 4 times and kind of play host to our virtual field trips. But just to give you a little sense of place, this is how close the bears get to the buggies, because they are extremely curious and really have no sense of fear. They are the apex predator up there. They have an amazing sense of smell. So as soon as you get your soup out for lunch, they come to the buggies to investigate. Here's a quick little video I took from my iPad up there. This is how amazingly close they get. Hopefully it's coming through for you guys. I'll play just a second of it here.
Hey, what you doing? What you doing? God.
Okay, so that is about as close as you want to get to a polar bear. Maybe that's a little too close. Fortunately, it is on the other side of that metal grate. So, in addition to when we go up and take these virtual field trips to the tundra, we focus on polar bears, but it's also focusing on culture and other animals that we see up there. So, just out of curiosity, a little challenge, interactive challenge in the chat window. What do you see in this picture? And Leslie, I don't think I can see the chat. So maybe if you can if anybody shares, just tell me some of the things that they see. Because ultimately the virtual field trips, not just the polar bear one, it's really about going to different amazing places, learning about different careers, and seeing things that you might not otherwise see out your window of your house or your apartment. So anybody in the chat window, tell me something that you see.
So people are saying snow, a
Good.
snow hare, rocks, a bunny.
Oh, who said the bunny? We had a virtual prize to whoever said the bunny. So in addition to my wife, who is in the bottom right corner, and the snow and the rocks, there is actually a snowshoe hare in the upper left corner, kind of at 11 o'clock, you can see a little snowshoe hare hiding in the snow. So these are the types of like the experiences that when we take kids on these virtual field trips, they're obviously not there in person, but like what an amazing experience to be able to take them to places like, I mean, I've been lucky, totally lucky to be able to go up and participate, but it's getting up to see this live is something that many of us won't get a chance to do. So virtual field trips give us that ability to transport kids all around the world to see some amazing places. So I'm going to jump out and show you, we have a collection of virtual field trips that you guys can access and plug into your summer programming or your programming in general. So I'm going to switch over. We'll make sure we can share the links again in the chat as we go through, but we'll make sure that everybody gets all of the direct links. So if you go to our Discovery Education virtual field trips page, it'll take you here and you'll see some of our featured and upcoming virtual field trips. I do want to just make a mention, everything that I'm showing you right now is pre-login. You all have access to it. So I'll talk about some additional Discovery resources at the end that are behind a login, but everything we're looking at, I'll tell you when it's not easily accessible pre-login, but these are all accessible to you. If we think about, you know, health and wellness, you can whittle them down. Health and wellness, we have a partnership with the NFL where we do kind of an exercise class for kids. There's a couple of the NFL Play 60 examples, but the one that I wanted to focus on today, given our theme, is science, STEM, and exploration. And there are a ton of virtual field trips in here, including, as I scroll down, the polar bears by the numbers. And I just popped them open in separate tabs just to save some time. You can see that virtual field trip that I gave you a little sneak peek of. You can see the whole thing just by going to the page, and we have links off to all of those different virtual field trips. Let me just play 10 seconds of this.
Welcome to Churchill, Manitoba. We are here coming to you live on the shores of the Hudson Bay. And I got to tell you, if you've
also started to get to do some work with polar bears. So I work on the mathematics of polar bears. So I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. This is like the most exciting thing for me. My two favorite.
Okay, so hopefully the audio is coming through a bit, but what I love about the polar bears ones, which is my personal favorite, is, you know, it's an amazing topic, an amazing place to take kids to. It is our most popular virtual field trip. And particularly in the past 3 months, it has been the one that, you know, we've had, you know, tens of thousands of students participate and view, because in addition to that amazing place, you get to learn about just different careers. You know, you can be a scientist, but you could also, what about the person that drives the Tundra buggy, who maintains the Tundra buggy? So you learn about a lot of different careers in addition to seeing this amazing place. There's a whole other host of kind of STEM related virtual field trips. One that I have open up here, the Generation Beyond. So this is a partnership we have with Lockheed Martin Space Facility. So you can take a virtual field trip directly to the space facility.
15 seconds, guidance is internal. 12, 11, 10, 9, ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Space Systems Advanced Technology Center in Palo Alto, California, where each and every day over 500 scientists and technicians are studying the sun and its impact right here on Earth.
Okay, so just a little quick sneak peek at that one. So beyond polar bears and the space facility, one of my other favorites is we have a great partnership with 3M. So most folks know 3M. Well, pretty much you probably have 10 different things made by 3M in your house right now, including Post-it notes. But we went inside the world of 3M. They have an amazing innovation center. So there's just a rich variety of kind of STEM related virtual field trips that all of these are accessible to you in terms of, I think really that career connection, taking kids to different places and just getting them to think about possibilities for their future, in addition to learning about just really cool different careers. And they're super engaging, interactive for the kids. So virtual field trips, I wanted to point out as we start, is just a great collection of resources for you. And like I said, we have, you know, a bunch on science, STEM, and exploration, but you can also find on a variety of different topics, virtual field trips that fit that. So related to STEM and totally interconnected. If you do the careers and college readiness filter, you're going to see some of the same ones that came in STEM, but you'll also see others like a virtual field trip we took to Toyota's headquarters. The Ag Explorer ones in particular are some of my favorite, because kids love going out and you know, going to a farm and learning about all the different careers beyond just being a farmer, what technology goes into it. So virtual field trips are my first kind of suggestion for STEM related programming, inspiring kids to think about different careers in STEM. All right, so let me jump back here. The virtual field trips, you know, you can create activities around them. When you go to a lot of those virtual field trips, you'll see like a companion guide that's written for educators that, you know, what are some activities that you can have the students do when they're taking a virtual field trip. But one of the things that we did just 2.5 months ago with COVID, we really quickly learned, you know, everybody was kind of scrambling, and we were sending out our virtual field trips, and they were getting a lot of traction because it was a great way to just get kids, you know, minds, not their bodies, but their minds outside of the apartment. But we took it upon ourselves to say, like, parents at this point, they were really like, what am I doing with my kids every day? What's some simple programming that I can just keep the kids learning? So we put something together pretty straightforward and simple called the Daily DE. And I think this in particular will be super useful for 4 different grade bands, K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. We put together basically 6 weeks of programming that each day has a different theme, and it has a different theme based on the different grade band. And you can see here just kind of some shots of what the content looks like. But the intent was super simple, you know, leverage those virtual field trips, leverage digital interactives that we have available through our partners. Like the Tiger Woods Foundation has these great STEM interactives that the kids can access. And we put simple little activities around the virtual field trips and the interactives, so that in addition to just watching and, you know, enjoying the virtual field trip, for example, there's something that we challenge them to do with stuff that they have at home. You know, draw a picture, design your own video game kind of storyboard. So let me just actually jump out and show you where those are at. And I want to highlight a couple of them. So the Daily DE, we'll give that link to you in the chat and make sure that you have it afterwards as well. But the Daily DE, there's, like I said, 6 weeks of programming, 5 days a week, just a simple activity with a theme. We have it grade banded. When you go to them, here's an example of a week. This is week 4, grades 3 through 5. And for STEM week in particular, so much of our content is STEM related. So for Monday, every Monday for grades 3 through 5, it's putting the math in STEM, getting techie with it Tuesday, field trip Friday. And kind of the connection here is, in addition to just the content and having kids consume it, we've structured some activities, very simple activities for the kids to, as they go along and explore a virtual field trip, or here's a hands-on activity that they can do. So this is one of our virtual field trips about fueling education, sustainable cities and communities. And then after that, just kind of simple reflections and connections that the students can do from home. And none of them are so elaborate that they take, you know, an hour of class time or an hour of seat time. They are, you know, 20-minute, trying to keep it very high interest. And I'm going to just scroll down through just to show you a little taste of, this is another one. You know, we have a great partnership with Home Depot. I'll show you that a little bit later. The site is just rich with kind of maker center, maker corner activities, but we built that in as well. So it's a combination of virtual field trips and hands-on activities and really giving students things that they can do from home to continue that learning. And I'm just going to fast scroll to the bottom just to show the kind of connection back to the virtual field trips again. As you get to the end, most of the grade bands have, it's kind of field trip Friday. And this is where we take one of our really popular virtual field trips. So this is one from our partnership with the NBA and WNBA. And we talk about folks that, you know, players in the NBA and WNBA, but also the statisticians and the marketing director, and we share their stories so that if students are really interested in basketball, but like myself, never elevated to the level to play in the NBA, let alone college, there are tons of different careers and things that if they're really interested in math, they can have a fantastic career working in the NBA. So we put, for those virtual field trips, pre-activities. So before the kids take that virtual field trip, what's something that they can do? And then we prompt them to watch that virtual field trip. And then there's these simple post activities. So the daily DE is really this collection of kind of grab and go resources that we've grade banded and then put thematic elements or themes to each day. I'm going to share another one just so you can see grades 6 through 8. And this is kind of a, reinforcement of the first one that we shared. So Tundra Tuesday for grades 6 through 8. Every Tuesday, we highlight one of the resources from our friends at Polar Bears International. And, whether it's a virtual field trip or their bear tracker, or in this case, it's this interactive story about polar bears. In addition to that, when you get to 6-8 and then 3-5, there's different kind of themes to each day based on the grade band. There's one that I really love, and I'll show you the site in just a little bit. There's one that we call Welmer's Wednesday, and we try to keep these daily DEs and all of the resources, things that kids can do, with materials that they have at home. So it's not just sit and get and consume and watch, a video on the computer, but like we try and mix in, those curiosity elements of what's a simple hands-on activity that we might be able to do that gets us thinking and maybe sparks our interest to learn more. So this is the point in time, if you have a sandwich bag and a pencil with you, and this is like a super, super simple one. There's a collection of these activities on the Young Scientist Lab, our partnership with 3M, where they're called Welmers, and they're basically like super simple things to just like try it and then try and really figure out what's actually happening here. And this is probably the most straightforward, simple of them. But in terms of getting kids hooked on something to try and figure out what's the stem behind this, how is this even working? This is called Sandwich Bag Dartboard. So hopefully I talked enough that you were able to grab your pencil and sandwich bag. So feel free to try this along with me. But the idea here is you take a Ziploc bag, and the one thing I didn't share with Leslie is you're going to want to fill it with about 3/4 of the way with water. And I'm wondering if I can maybe change my background filter is changing the view of your bag. So I think if I hold it there, you can see. The green screen is messing with me right now, but you have your Ziploc bag full of water, okay? Leslie, is that coming through okay for you?
Yes, I can see it. I think so.
Okay, looks like I'm doing tricks with it here. I promise it's my green screen. I should have kept the background solid. All right, so if you have your bag, fill it about 3/4 of the way with water, and then you take a sharpened pencil. And this is where with the kids, if you're on virtually and you're prompting them to do this, to do it along, have them predict what will happen. Because the goal here is if I take a pencil, you know what, Leslie, I'm going to just actually see if I can change my video settings real quick. It'll come through better.
Yeah.
All
And
right.
maybe also if we stop the screen share so they can see you a little bit more.
Yep, that would be great. Perfect. Thank you. All right, now we're rolling. That gave everybody time to get to their sandwich bag. So hopefully you can see now. Sandwich bag 3/4 of the way with water. Seal it at the top. So zip it up, and then we're just going to take a pencil, a sharpened pencil, and when I push that into the bag, what do you think is going to happen? All right. Most folks, I'm sure, are going to say, we're not sure. Hopefully it's going to go through, but it's going to make a hole. Definitely is going to make a hole. All right. But if we push it through deliberately, I'm doing this over my Discovery-owned laptop, and I keep pushing, it goes the whole way through. So you guys can see that. All right. let's get brave, try another one. So another pencil. Hopefully by this point you guys have your bags and your water. And we have another, so hence the name sandwich bag dartboard. And this is one of those super simple Welmer's activities just to get kids thinking. Now, that's kind of like a magic trick, it seems, right? And the kids can get really, you can challenge them, how many can they actually get through there? But as they're doing it, they can kind of observe the science of what is happening. As you look at the plastic bag right around where the pencil goes in, you know, it's challenging kids to think about what is happening here. Why doesn't the water come out? Why does it just, does the pencil go through? And the connection there is ultimately related to polymers. That plastic bags are made of, I think it's polyethylene, right? And that polymer basically kind of, in simple terms, twists around the pencil and kind of seals it. And if you pull the bag or pull the pencil back out, obviously the water will come out. But those are the types of simple activities that you'll find in the daily DE, that materials that the kids will most likely have at home. And it's a fun demo, and really to challenge then the kids. That's fun to do, and we can put 50 pencils in there, but what is happening, and challenge them to figure out the science or the STEM behind it. All right, so let me share my screen again. Okay, so that's one of those activities within the daily DE. And like I said, the daily DE, we have it, like the activities are grade banded, and we even have them for 9 through 12. So there's 6 weeks of activities. Hopefully you'll find 1 or 2 or maybe 3 of those days that you can pull something and plug it into your programming. So the daily DE is another great resource. All right. The next piece that I wanted to talk about is, you know, in addition to virtual field trips, and then with the daily DE, we've kind of taken those virtual field trips along with some other content and really packaged it up so that you have those activities to accompany the resources. But we're going to share, if you didn't see it already, we're going to share this PDF that has just a range of programs that, you know, at Discovery Education, we partner with, you know, like 50 companies and nonprofits who have just kind of amazing educational connections, and they want to get the word out about, you know, initiatives they have, resources they have. So it's everybody from, you know, our partnership with the Girl Scouts of America, the Girls Get STEM, or Discovering Data. Madden is another one that the kids absolutely love. We have a virtual field trip where the kids go to EA Sports and they learn about how the game Madden is created, and the kind of the coders and designers and what kind of careers that you can have there. But each of these sites has just a wealth of resources. And I wanted to point out a couple specific to you guys today that I think will be most helpful. You'll have access to all of them. They're all pre-login. You can get to them right now, today. One of the ones I wanted to point out is Science Fair Central. So Science Fair Central has just an abundance of resources, particularly designed to help kids when they're in school go through, you know, science fair or STEM fair season. But there are resources, particularly I think for summer learning, like the Maker Corner activities that, you know, that they could do with you all, with your facilitators, with parents, guardians at home. So I'm going to just go out live to the site in just a second, but Science Fair Central is one. When you get that list of like 50, it's one I would definitely check out, particularly the Maker Corner. And like I said, I'll show you that in just a second. Another is Siemens STEM Day. There's like 100+ activities that are grade banded, that are written out for you, that if you're looking for, you know, just additional programming, we want to have a STEM themed day. There are these kind of curated resources and activities that you can find on the Siemens STEM Day site. And a third one, and again, I'm going to go out and show you all 3 of these live, is 3M Science at Home. So our friends at 3M, who all are at home like we are, the scientists included, they took it upon themselves to say, we have amazing scientists at home. Wouldn't it be fun if we had them do a simple little demo, like, you know, like the Welmer's activity. And we had the scientists who have, you know, multiple PhDs talk through, you know, a simple activity that kids can try at home. In addition to the scientists, the girl that you're seeing here is Gitanjali. She was the winner 2 years ago of the Young Scientist Challenge. So we have a mix of young scientists and veteran scientists from 3M. So let me just jump out and I'll show you those sites really quickly. All right, so here is the one, Science Fair Central, and there's an abundance of other resources on that kind of doc, and I'll show you that doc here as well. But Science Fair Central, when I go here, you're going to see Maker Corner, and you'll see the different grade bands associated with each of the activities. You can download the activities and kind of build them into your summer programming. Another one that I mentioned, Siemens STEM Day. This is one where there's over 100 activities and we can quickly filter it and say, just give me the ones for K-5. We even have them kind of rated by level, level of complexity, level of difficulty. All right, but there are just an abundance of resources, kind of STEM related resources on Siemens STEM Day. And then the third one that I showed you just a second ago was the 3M Science at Home. And when you go to the Science at Home site, you can see the different experiments. And there's a short little video. I'm going to give you just a taste of Gitanjali's Feeling Sound. What I love about these are literally materials that hopefully the kids will have at home, or they should be pretty accessible. In this case, it's really just a balloon, but you have the scientist or young scientist talk you through it. So let me just give you a taste of that.
Hey everyone, and welcome to Science at Home. My name is Gitanjali Rao, and I am America's Top Young Scientist of 2017 by 3M. Have you ever been to a concert and seen an American Sign Language interpreter? Chances are they're there because there are some people in the audience who can't necessarily hear. So it might seem a bit unusual that someone who's deaf would attend a concert. But thank you to the vibrations that music provide, people who actually cannot hear can feel the music, which I think is really fascinating.
Okay, so I think you kind of get the gist, but these are ones literally, I think, in this kind of virtual space where, we can broadcast that to the kids, challenge them to try that at home. And like I said, relatively simple materials that you need access to. One of the ones that I did want to point out, because as soon as I know we have some folks on from the Girl Scouts. We have a partnership with the Girl Scouts at Discovery Education around an initiative called Girls Get STEM. So this is one of many resources. There's a pretty awesome virtual field trip. A lot of the different resources that I'm sharing, you'll see support in English and Spanish. So in this case, you can just toggle over. All right. And in addition to the kind of the virtual field trip or the video, like we've been talking about, we try and build in activities pre and post that the kids can do. So it's not just consuming, and which in and of itself is like inspiring, and I get to travel to this different place, but what's something intentionally that we can have the kids do before they take this trip and after, just like we would if we were taking a trip in person, right? So let me jump back here. I'm going to actually show you this since I have it open. This is a resource that we're going to make sure everybody has if you didn't get it yet, but kind of all of a collection of all of our partnerships specifically related to science, STEM, and exploration. And when you get this doc, everything just hyperlinks out. I shared a few of them with you, like Girls Get STEM and Science Fair Central and Siemens STEM Day, but there are many, many more. The one I mentioned was Madden Football by the Numbers. So if I open that one up really quickly, I think I did my link wrong. That one will take you to the virtual field trip for where we took the trip to EA Sports. So we'll make sure that you guys get access to this. I do want to point out, and I thought I had this one open, but TigerEDU. I'm going to give it just a second to load while the mailman goes by. Okay, perfect. There we go. All right. So when I go to TigerEDU, you're going to see resources that are for professional development and for teachers, but there's also a collection of family resources that focus on kind of upper grades, secondary grades around finding the right college fit or navigating financial aid. But there are also these kind of interactive challenges that are part of the site itself. And this is one of those programs that, in addition to the resources in English, we have the resources in Spanish. So TigerEDU is another one to check out. Let me just show you one more page on this. The resource that we shared with you guys, in addition to kind of the STEM programming, we do have resources on SEL, or social emotional learning, and health and wellness, which in particular right now, super important. It's always important, but particularly for kids who are going through, little kids, even high school kids, that these are very interesting times. So those SEL resources are impactful as well. And we integrate those into the daily DE programming too. So I know this is it's a lot pretty quickly. We'll make sure that you guys get access to all of the resources, but I do want to just spend just a couple minutes. All of the stuff that we just shared, the links, the virtual field trips, those hands-on activities, they're all accessible with the links that you guys have. But we also have a collection of resources at discoveryeducation.com that you'd need a login for. What I will say, and was talking to Leslie about it before, I'll point them out. You could request a trial, but chances are, a lot of your students are going to have access to this, because about 50% of the schools in the US have access to Discovery Education. So the kids would have a username and password already. But we put this initiative together called the Summer of Learning. And let me just show it. Let me jump out live. There we go. So this is the first resource I will share. This is something that you would need a login, but this is discoveryeducation.com. After you log in, and there's an initiative called the Summer of Learning. And when we go to the Summer of Learning, there are just a collection of resources for educators, but I'm going to jump over to the student resources. If you know that the students that you serve are in a school district that has Discovery Education, they'll have this, and they will most likely know their single sign-on and have been in it before. But it's something that you could potentially leverage in terms of your programming as well. There's a whole channel called Learning at Home. And the Learning at Home channel kind of takes the daily DE to the next level. And we have just rows of content, hands-on STEM activities, connections to math in the real world, healthy habits, an SEL showcase, and then of course, our favorite virtual field trips. So within Discovery Education, like I said, your students will be able to access all of this content in addition to what I shared previously. When they're in here, we build them out a little bit more elaborately in terms of, here's a virtual field trip, here's an integrated activity that you're going to do before you take the trip. Here's an activity that we want you to do as you're going through the trip, focusing on careers and Arctic animals. So if you know that your students, the students that you work with, are in a district that has Discovery Education, you also have access to kind of this Summer of Learning network of activities. So Learning at Home, our virtual field trips I showed you are pre-login. You guys are welcome to get them there. We also have them curated behind login. There's a STEM camp within Discovery Education. So I don't want to belabor this because I know this is behind the login, but I did want to point that out. If you know that you have your district, your schools have access to Discovery Education, you can also take advantage of these resources. So if you have questions about that, we'll happily answer it. But I'm going to jump back out here and just say thank you so much for spending time with us. But I would love to hear questions and try and answer anything that we can, clarify any of the resources that were shared. So I'll open it up, Leslie, to see if there are any questions that came in that I can help clarify.
Great, thank you so much, Lance. So again, if you have any questions for Lance, go ahead and type those into the Q&A box. We did have one question from earlier. Somebody asked me how do I volunteer to go on that trip to the polar bears? But actually, I think this is a good question. How did you get started with Discovery Education? How did you get involved with them, and just kind of what was that path?
Yeah, for me, it was I was a middle school teacher in Philadelphia, and then worked in the Department of Ed in Harrisburg, which is where we live now. And because of my kind of teaching background and my interest, Discovery Education, the majority of folks that work at Discovery Education came from an education background of some shape or form. We were just talking earlier, one of my colleagues who works on those programs, like who makes those programs possible, like the partnership with Girl Scouts and the NBA. She worked for many years in the after school space. So my path was through, I was a middle school teacher. And in terms of the volunteering for that trip, there's quite a long line of volunteers, but we can gladly put your name on the list.
So I have a question. What are you hearing from educators and families need right now this summer during the crisis? So what are you hearing the needs are?
Yeah, so I'll speak to what we're hearing specifically at Discovery Education. That we talk about, like, it was a transition to remote learning. I don't know that it was definitely a transition to remote learning, but it was like a transition to remote crisis learning. The things that, to the daily DE point, we're hearing from educators and parents that, I want to have some sort of enrichment activities for my kids. There's the whole continuity of learning, the potential summer slide now with the COVID slide, like what are things that we can just keep the kids engaged and curious and learning something. So packaging up materials, simple activities versus just here's 50 videos, go watch it. Like what's something that we can get them to do hands-on with it, a reflection, a journal. So it's really the main thing we're hearing is any kind of enrichment activities that just keep the cobwebs out is kind of the synthesis, but prepackaged stuff that, this is one of the things with that daily DE, which is very, it was an early response on our part. We built out 6 weeks of it really quickly as the COVID stuff hit. Parents can do that, guardians can do that with the kids, but the main thing we heard from parents is, I'm also balancing the fact that I have to work from home. My kids are here. Package things up so that I can tell my kids, like, hey, for 30 minutes today, I want you to go here and just try this, take a trip, do this activity. So it's the packaging up of kind of student facing grab and go resources that we're hearing a lot.
And so just to reiterate, if the cost of things, everything you showed with us up to the last part was free, correct?
That is correct, yeah. So everything that we talked about, the only thing that the post login to Discovery Education, but everything else that we shared, all of the programming is free. So this resource in particular, I think you'll find great value in. So we'll send you the link to the virtual field trips, to the daily DE, and then we'll make sure you have this because it's just a quick, easy way to explore those sites. But you can find all of this too if you go to discoveryeducation.com before you log in. Before you log in, you'll see our virtual field trips. You'll see our programming, our corporate education partnerships, which is really kind of a collection of those resources. So this is all pre-login.
And so the school districts, or how can the school district or a summer program become a Discovery Ed partner, and what's the cost?
Yeah, so we offer a bunch of different services, and we have like homeschool pricing. Typically, we don't necessarily sell we sell to schools and districts, and in some cases, like an entire state. And by extension of that, the kind of the summer programming, after school programming, out of school programming partners don't need to pay for it because their district will have already paid for it for all teachers and students because it's a building level subscription. But that's something specifically, if there's somebody that's interested, I'll happily put my email up and we can track that down for you. There's different products, so it really depends what you're looking for.
So probably the first step is to contact your local school district to see if they already have.
That would be the best because the chances are you got a coin flip of chances of having it. I know from my friends from Pennsylvania, Discovery is in pretty much every part of Pennsylvania because it's provided through our service center partners. I saw some folks on from New York. The BOCES partners provide it. So chances are you have there's a good shot that the kids that you serve will have access.
So what are the interesting programs? What programs would you say are available for high school students?
Yeah, so high school students. So one, we did, the place I would start for high school and you can go on the site and you can see, you know, these resources. You'll see the grade banded ones for secondary, for high school, and for 6 through 12. You can also, for the daily DE, we did develop out grades 9 through 12. And within here, you'll see some of the featured programs that are specific to high school. So like our partnership here about becoming Pathway to Financial Success. This is actually a program that we'll use in our summer program, my wife and I, with our high school kids. It's a free resource, and it's ultimately getting kids to think about how do they save, how do they prepare for college, and there's just these self-paced modules. So I would start by just checking out the daily DE and seeing the programs that we have materials designed for related to 9 through 12. But you can also look at this doc that we'll share, and we have them grade banded out, which ones are for 9, 12, K-12, 6, 12, et cetera. So hopefully that answered the question.
So you mentioned that you started out as a middle school teacher. What subject did you teach? Science?
Yeah, so I taught science and social studies, and then I taught 6th grade, like self-contained. So, you know, elementary, all subject areas. And then I was the technology teacher for a while.
And you're getting ready, you're putting together packets right now for your nonprofit that you have. Can you share a little bit about that process? I know people are thinking about how do they get supplies to kids? Like, what has that process been like for you, and how are you getting them out to them?
Yeah, so we basically are, you know, I think the one thing we have learned is you cannot try and replicate what you're going to do entirely in person with what you're going to do by sending kids a packet, and just kind of resolve yourself to it's going to be different. And if you're connecting over Zoom, like we will be, we have 55 kids, grades 6 through 12. Most of them are 6 through 8. You know, we're trying to make sure that everything is a very bite-sized chunk. So 30-minute sessions, the kids have to be doing something at least most of the day. So we're doing culinary arts right before lunch, and it's just, you know, simple snacks, healthy snacks. We're doing a STEM challenge every day with brown paper bag with just simple materials that the kids open up, and, you know, as a group, they all try and solve it in 15 minutes. But in terms of, you know, how we're assembling it, you know, we're basically, probably like many folks, we're kitting it up, labeling it, putting it in a box, and then for distribution, we have a couple sites where we go to the schools, and the parents will come, you know, the day before the program and pick up the materials for the week.
So I asked about the older kids. How young do the programs go? Is there anything for pre-K or kindergarten students?
Yeah, there's definitely, everything's labeled K2. There's some stuff that I think is probably applicable to pre-K. The one that actually just happens to be on here right now, Cha-Ching, was an animated series. I think it was on Nickelodeon or maybe Cartoon Network. But it's about learning a little bit about math while learning about money, but it's an animated series. That's one of the kind of K2, 3, 5 resources. Soar with Wings is an SEL program that it's in that kind of K5 space. So, you know, the one that I would say, again, kind of driving back to a takeaway is just take a peek, you know, particularly for your grade bands, like just check out a couple of the weeks of the daily DE and see the programs that we mentioned in there or that we build activities around, because there are programs across the board.
Great. So we have a question. How and where do you currently promote some of the DE awards you have for students, like the Young Scientists Awards and others, particularly to ensure reaching youth in underserved communities?
Oh, okay. So how do we promote the existence of those programs?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So it varies depending on the program itself. And my colleague, who I mentioned earlier, it would be better to speak to it. But you know, for Young Scientist Challenge, we've been doing it for a decade, and we have pretty good distribution in terms of, you know, we promote it to the typical, all of the different STEM challenges, science fair challenges that happen nationwide. But to the point that was brought up, kids who are not part of a science fair circuit or one of these other challenges, like the Toyota Teen Driver Challenge, which is this video competition, like for kids who aren't plugged into that, how do we promote? That's one of the reasons that the companies partner with Discovery Ed, is that we promote them to, we have several million students who access Discovery Education every day. So we promote the programs through our network as well. In addition to, social media is obviously king for promotion these days.
Great. So I don't think we are seeing any more questions in the box. So I think we're going to wrap up with just a couple of things of announcements right now.
Perfect. Thank you guys very much. Leslie, before I go, I just want to say thank you. If there are anything, I'll put my email in the chat window. Don't hesitate, send me an email. And Leslie, thank you for letting us join, and anything else we can do, we'd be happy to help.
Great, thank you so much, Lance. So just to wrap up, today just a reminder, we're in the middle of Summer Learning Week. We're on Wednesday now, halfway through Summer Learning Week. And as I mentioned before, we want to hear summer learning stories from everyone, whether it's about a memory from your own childhood, the achievements your kid has made, or an amazing moment from the summer program. We want to know. So share your stories on social media with the hashtag Summer Learning Week. This week we have merged our popular Voices of Summer webinar series with Summer Learning Week. But look out for more of this series to continue throughout the summer. We're also having more webinars this week. Tomorrow we'll be featuring a webinar with Applegate Foods, and on Friday we'll have more webinars with some of our partners. Finally, the best way to keep up with everything that we are putting out for this Summer Learning Week or in general is to follow us on social media using the hashtag Summer Learning and Summer Learning Week. You can sign up for our newsletter on our website and join special cohorts of peers interested in topics like sports, literacy, or youth employment. You can also find out about consultation support and technical assistance for your summer program. So once again, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you will be able to join us for the rest of the events for this week for Summer Learning Week, and we will be in touch. Goodbye.